Over the last 4 or 5 years, I've talked about my fair share of disturbing, inhuman, and uncanny entities, all from the Backrooms lore. It's one of my favorite things to do, and it also seems that you all really enjoy it, and who doesn't love talking about scary things? But today, I want to introduce you to an entity only known as the Abomination. This Backrooms entity is highly disturbing, and even though the descriptions I'm going to give about it will be fleeting and non-explicit, viewer discretion is still advised. I have to say that for YouTube because they might ban the video. It's about to get disgusting, and if you're ready for it, please leave a like on this video, and let's get into this explanation of this horrible creature, shall we? Quote, "This entity exists in a state between life and death, a horrific immortality," end quote. Now that is a statement taken from an alleged witness of this creature from somewhere deep inside of the Backrooms. That witness saw the Abomination and somehow survived an encounter with it, which, as you'll go on to see throughout this video, that is an extremely rare feat that not many people have the luxury of experiencing. The Abomination is a large, skeletal creature that appears to be mangled in many ways. If someone is indeed unfortunate enough to encounter the entity, it is extremely unlikely that they will survive that encounter. There is only one instance of this creature that's been documented, so it's not a species of entity or a type, it is one specific being, although it has been seen across several different levels in the lore, which means it must be able to travel through them with ease. I'll discuss all that in a second. First, let's talk about the entity's physical description. This is the initial image of the Abomination taken by one of those rare survivors of the entity. Visually, it appears to be a vaguely humanoid-shaped thing that's been twisted and warped and contorted in unnatural ways. Its bones and its muscles, or whatever those things are stretched out, and its bones are sharpened and pointed upwards from its spine and from its legs. From Wanderer's rough estimates, the creature stands at just over 3 meters, or just under 10 feet tall, and 6 meters, or 19 feet long. For reference, and to compare those numbers to real-life objects, this entity is the exact same size of an RV Sprinter van, with their heights and lengths pretty much being identical. And if that doesn't sound insane enough, this creature is as long as the average male killer whale. It's big, and it's deadly, I will tell you that. Fleshy matter that appears to be muscle tissue, or something similar, is stuck all over the bony body of the Abomination, and it gives it this pale brown and yellow coloration. That strange muscle connective tissue is wrapped around the bone fragments, except where the bones are sharpened, then they poke through. The top of the monster's body is significantly more filled out with meat and tissues than the lower half, as the bottom cavity is pretty much empty and hollow. Attached to the hunched body of the Abomination are around 8 to 10 limbs. Now these are all misshapen and they're bent out in odd directions, which give it an unnaturally jerky walking motion when it runs or when it moves, as if it needed anything else to be heinous. Just imagine this bony flesh blob jerkily walking at you down a tight corridor in the Backrooms. And did I mention that it's the size of a killer whale? The Abomination uses several of these different appendages to grab prey when it's hunting, which I will explain its hunting patterns in a second, bear with me. The head of the Abomination is just vaguely similar to a humanoid skull, although it does appear to be more flesh-like and less bony than the rest of its body. It's also of a flatter shape, and its jaws are lined with sharp, jagged teeth, rather than the teeth that we have that are not meant to tear people limb from limb. Where eyeballs would normally be in a skull, there are hollowed-out pits that look like sunken eye sockets in the Abomination's head. Beneath that are dry cuts or slits where a nose would normally be, and despite there being no ears or eyes to speak of, the entity can hear and see extremely well. Across its back, the Abomination has what I'm going to call spines running downward towards its tail. These are very sharp, and they're used sometimes to aid in hunting prey, and also in its own natural defense from other entities, but that doesn't really matter. I say all of that physical description just to get across the fact that this thing looks wrong. It looks incorrect, mangled, like it crawled out of a Lovecraft book or something. But now that you know what it looks like, I want to discuss in depth its behavior, how it interacts with things around it, and how it hunts, because somehow it will continue to get worse for you, dear viewer. For an unknown reason, the preferred food for this entity, of course, is wanderers, or facelings. They have been known to eat facelings when there are no wanderers around to consume. And as such, the abomination is constantly on the prowl for more of these things to eat. It seems that the only force that drives its existence is its hunger and appetite for human people. Since it is so large and designed to annihilate anything, it kind of has a killer whale type mindset with its prey too, in that it seems to get some sort of sick enjoyment out of toying with whatever it's about to consume. There appears to be some kind of malice and a level of intellect that allows this thing to be happy when it's causing chaos and, ending its victims. And that's exactly what it does. It plays with its food. When the abomination approaches what it perceives to be as prey, it will toy with it. It'll knock it around or slightly attack it and chase around the wanderer for as long as it sees fit, filling the victim with terror and horror as it sees this gigantic killer whale-sized bone monster about to eat it. Now, aiding in this effort of toying with its food is the fact that the abomination paralyzes prospective victims in fear just by looking at them. It's not that it's so scary that it happens, it's that this is a genuine effect that the entity gives off. It's very lethal, and it makes wanderers and facelings alike lose the ability to control their bodies and their motor functions. So if you make direct eye contact with this entity while it's hunting you, you're gonna go limp, and it's gonna be able to attack you with ease. Now, one can break out of this paralyzing trance with enough focus, so pretty much if you lock in, you might survive. However, the intense negative feelings may linger for some time after prolonged exposure, and it might render victims in this permanent catatonic state of extreme fear and anxiety. Just try not to make eye contact with this thing, as just a good general form of advice. Regardless, if the wanderer almost gets away while it's being hunted and toyed with, or if it somehow escapes, or even if the wanderer looks like it's gonna get away, the abomination will stop playing with its food, and it will strike directly to destroy its target. Now, in this scuffle, in this fight, if you fight back and somehow cause damage to the abomination by defending yourself, the wounds on the creature will only last for a short time, actually less than a few minutes, although deeper damage might take a few hours to heal up. But no matter the case, no weapons have seemed effective when combating this entity. Now, the ways in which the creature actually does the deed, so to speak, range widely. Again, I can't get too graphic into anything since YouTube would banish this video from your homepage if I did, but I will describe the ways that the entity eats its food, so to speak, the best I can. Sometimes, the entity will remove the craniums from its prospective victim to eat whole, saving whatever's below that for later on. Other times, it will use a couple of its many arms to pick up its food and smash it around on various surfaces nearby, pulverizing it. And sometimes, if it's really feeling aggressive, it'll fling whatever it has onto its spiny back, and it will skewer them that way like a living kebab. Again, I'm sorry that I can't get into all the gory detail. YouTube doesn't like that. The abomination seems to use messier and messier methods of hunting with humans as time goes on, whereas when it hunts facelings or things like that, it will swiftly finish them for the most part. It doesn't get that sick enjoyment like it does from hunting good old people. The entity has also a very disturbing rotation of vocalizations that it might make, and these vocalizations are also known to strike fear into the people that hear them, and also they might be your only chance of survival at the same time, because you might hear the entity coming before it gets to you. But usually this is a sort of guttural snarling or squelching sound. Whatever it is, it's described as unnerving and paralyzing in its horror. A unique thing about how the entity behaves is that it's actually passive to other creatures that it might encounter. So if it walks down the hallway and passes a bone thief or something, it's not going to attack it, unless that entity is attempting to steal its prey or eat its catch. At that point, it doesn't really matter what it is, a smile or a partygoer. The abomination will not hesitate to destroy all of them. The entity has been seen in several of the deeper levels inside of the Backrooms, and although on the page there are no listed levels where encounters have, happened, we can assume that because it feasts on wanderers and facelings, it would need to be on levels where they both exist in various high numbers. Although it can move around to different levels, it's probably just safe to say that it exists inside indoor levels where people go. Now, unfortunately, all the page says is that, quote, it's been reported in a myriad of levels, end quote. So we never really know what exact places this thing is in. However, most people aren't going to ever experience an encounter with it because it's kind of a rare thing. But if you do, I kind of feel bad bad for you, to be honest. You're screwed! Obviously, an entity of this magnitude and ability and its aura can't really hide for long, so it was only a matter of time before its discovery and documentation. And on top of that, reports of the creature go back for many, many years, and whispers of its terrorizing of various places in the Backrooms have actually been circulating forever. As far back as documentation about the Backrooms goes, there's been mentions of this gigantic fleshy amalgamate that consumes individuals in deep levels, with a ferocious appetite on top of it, because it really just seems to despise humanity. The entity remains elusive enough to where you're not gonna see it often. It's not gonna be something you run into randomly, but it's just common enough to cause chaos so that it's annoying. It's kind of like acne when you're an adult. You know, acne really doesn't happen much after you leave the teenage years, but when you're an adult and when you get pimples, it's very annoying. You heard it here first, folks. The abomination entity is the acne of the Backrooms. And I came up with that live while recording this video, by the way, so claps for me. Theories about this creature's existence and nexus point are widespread and confusing, to say the least. There are no other things like this inside of the Backrooms. There's not one single thing that has a lust to hate humanity and to consume whatever even looks like humanity in the form of facelings. It's just the singular entity that's doing it. So it's really impossible to pinpoint the first instance of seeing it. The creature doesn't seem to ever age, and nothing really can do damage to it. No other entities have seemed to be able to take it down, so I guess it's safe to say that it's immortal, or as close to being immortal as you could literally be. On that same note, there's a really strange thing that's said to be attributed to the entity, and it's known as the immobile immortality theory, and it really kind of strikes this extra sense of dread on top of an already horrific being. I'm gonna read the theory to you directly from the page because I feel like that's the best way for you to understand it, then I'm gonna talk about my thoughts on it. Quote, according to this theory, while the wounds that the abomination inflicts upon its victims initially seem fatal, the victims instead enter a permanent state of immobile immortality immediately after the death of their bodies. In this state, they remain alive in some way, yet are trapped inside of their own mutilated bodies. They cannot move, yet they cannot die. Thus, the tumorous masses that grow on them exist in a similar state of immortality. It is often debated between followers of the immobile immortality theory whether or not these deceased victims of the abomination are still truly conscious, and if so, whether they retain any awareness of their surroundings. While the corpses evidently have no function left at all, some argue that the same anomaly that keeps them alive also preserves some, if not all, of their senses, possibly all of their body, due to there no longer being any working organs to specifically relay them, end quote. So you just heard that theory, and as it states, there might be some kind of witchy magic stuff going on here, because somehow wanderers might be alive in a sort of purgatory after being mangled by this entity, which adds, like I said, another horrific layer to this already terrifying being. And it literally might be, after reading that, one of the worst ways to go out inside the Backrooms. You're in this permanent purgatory after being shredded to pieces by a gigantic abomination. The abomination is an entity that people seem to be afraid of talking about in the lore. It's sort of like the boogeyman inside of everything I read about, and it's almost as if you speak about it and then it appears. It's one of those type of things, like Voldemort from Harry Potter. It acts as a horrifying reminder of how dangerous this place actually is, and that you never truly know what's lurking inside of the different levels that you've traveled through the Backrooms complex. Whatever the case is, the abomination should never be approached, never walk down dark corridors, and try to go around places with more than one person. Don't go alone, because you might be an easy meal if you do. And again, one of the only ways to know if the thing is near you is if you hear gurgling. Turn and run the other way. You don't want to be eaten by this thing. You don't want to be consumed or put into a catatonic immortality space where you can't move, but you're fully conscious and you just got mangled. You don't want that either. That's it for the video. I do hope you enjoyed my explanation of this creature. I try to make this one a little bit more in depth, a little bit more more long and accentuated, and I really am trying to make that with all my videos. So again, please leave a like if you did actually enjoy. Don't leave a like if you didn't enjoy. I tell you this every video, but don't do that, okay? Only if you liked it. Thank you so much for everything you do. If you want more content from me, again, you can check out this channel. I upload 3 times a week almost, and my other channel, Spoogly, I upload a lot on there as well. I have a TikTok and I have an Instagram where you can support me as well. I upload short form content of cool stuff on those platforms too. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Leave a comment below telling me if you want more entity coverage like this, or if you want more specific levels to talk about, or other internet horror, analog horror stuff. I'm doing all of it on the channel and you all are loving it, so that's pretty neat. Thank you for everything you do. With all that said, I will see you in the next video. Bye.